Hi, everybody. My name's Dave Pyper. I'm here with Harris Football. Christopher Harris is here, along with Jake Ciely, all-in kid from The Athletic. We are mock drafting today on Fantrax, and we had a very fun mock draft. And Chris actually, early on, did something a little crazy. Surprised me. He took Chubb instead of Kyler Murray.
I did. So I'll just tell you what the format of the draft was. It was 12 team. It was SuperFlex half PPR, and it was the three of us, and it was supposed to be 9 listeners. Unfortunately, one of them didn't show up. Shame on whoever that was. I think I invited a bunch of people. Nobody. I don't know what happened. So we had one bot drafting with us, but otherwise, yes, indeed. So I think I'm right when I say 3 quarterbacks went before me. I was picking 8. And what's kooky is, these were randomly assigned draft numbers. And so I was 8 and Dave was 10 and Jake was 11. So we're going to give you a lot of back of the draft Superflex. So we didn't have control over where everybody picked. So we'll put the results up all throughout this program and you'll see what everybody did. And you're right, Pyper. I had the choice at 8. And I don't think it's a popular choice to not take Kyler Murray and instead to take Nick Chubb. I actually could have taken Saquon Barkley there too, but I'm not as high on Kyler Murray as everybody else, and my ranks generally say I think I can do okay waiting on quarterback. And sure, I sure did wind up waiting on quarterback.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was going to take Nick Chubb there. I was very excited about it. I was watching these quarterbacks fall, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna snag Nick Chubb, and then you took him, so I had to go Lamar Jackson, take my quarterback available, which was just before Jake, which probably put a wrench into his gears a little bit.
Just a little bit. I actually was thinking that Lamar Jackson would make it to me, and that was going to be the last of the quarterbacks I wanted to take in the first round. So similar to what Chris said, is, this mock draft, you kind of want to see how things turn out. I generally argue against taking Travis Kelce in the first round, but in this league, when you had the big quote-unquote 4 running backs, the big 4 quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers, I said, you know what? Let's see how this team turns out if I take Travis Kelce and lock down that tight end position. And so that's what I went. I was able to get Barkley on the way back. I think that's, obviously there's a huge floor there. Nobody knows what's the real story behind Barkley, and nobody really knows what's going to happen until we see him actually on the field. But that being said, we still know he has top 5 upside. The floor is, well, I potentially don't even have a number 1 running back, but I think it's an interesting start. The interesting part, Chris, is seeing what was going to happen to the quarterback being on the back half. You get those runs and seeing with what I was going to have to do, and that's why I'm not upset with how my team turned out.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, he waited a little bit. I waited a lot bit. I wound up in the second round. I don't remember, Dave. Who did you take in the second round?
I took Aaron Jones just because I wanted I feel good about running back.
Yeah, just one of the not the ultimate ultra safe guy, but a clear second rounder. Probably could be the end of a first rounder in non-superflex leagues. So yeah, again, I kind of felt like Jake did coming around the turn, and I think Jake and I are both going to be test cases in not having taken the quarterback in the first couple of rounds and see what it likes what the quarterbacks are going to be like when it comes back around. So I was going to take Russell Wilson. For my ranks are like, yep, that's good. Go ahead, take Russell Wilson there. In fact, a couple of nights ago, Jake, I did your Superflex online in your flex league that we do play out. That wasn't a mock draft, and I rounded up with Wilson right there, and I felt great about it. And I got sniped. Wilson was queued up. I don't remember who it was, but if you're watching, nice job. So I took Tyreek Hill because I just don't find any other quarterback there appealing. Even in a 2-quarterback league, I just like Jake, I couldn't do it, and then we did. We saw some quarterbacks go off the board between that pick where I didn't take one, and when it came back around again to all of us.
Yeah, we had I think Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott came off the board there. There was a lot going on at the top half of the drafts. Even by the time I got to the 3rd round, I started looking at wide receivers, and I was thinking, man, things are even kind of thinning out there when it comes to top names. I ended up taking Terry McLaurin, but were there any players in the first top half of the draft that you guys really were happy to get where you got them?
Yeah, well, to talk about, again, Chris waited a lot more than I did. I waited only till the end of the 3rd round with my quarterbacks, but that's this is also a test case, as you said, Chris, for what I try to do in general. Is like I want to get 2 top 15 quarterbacks. So sometimes if I'm waiting and getting like towards the end, like the 10th, 11th quarterback off my board, I'll double tap real quick, especially if I'm near the turn, which I was. So I took Burrow and Hurts. Now looking at the board, hindsight being 2020, as is often the case, maybe I throw Hurts back there because I could have taken Edwards-Helaire or DeAndre Swift or somebody like that, and instead it had Mike Davis in the 5th round. I could have gotten Matt Ryan. Well, you took Matt Ryan, so then I would have had to be looking at, Lawrence or Fields or, Baker and Tua and stuff like that. So you could argue either way. But what I liked is that if you look at SuperFlex, is you're talking about the wide receivers. That top tier did thin out, Dave, but there was a lot that you could argue are just outside that group that fell because of how this draft goes in a SuperFlex. And in the 6th and 7th round, my top 2 wide receivers, I think they are not my top 15, but they could both finish top 15, and that's Kupp and T. Higgins. Like I'm okay with those as my top 2 when I already have the best tight end, have Barkley, and then have Burrow and Hurts. I'm okay with those guys in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is wide receiver lasts in a superflex. It just does, because people don't want to compromise on quarterback and they don't want to compromise on running back. You see the top receivers go, I consider it a top 5, and then maybe there's 4 or 5 other guys, but then there's the green thins out a little bit until the 4th round, 5th round. And then by that time, Jake is getting his receivers in the 5th and the 6th. It's not bad strategy. I'll just put in a plug here for Fantrax. The boards that we've been showing you are from Fantrax. They are sponsoring the channel. They sponsored this mock draft. If you are interested in their game day promotion, Pyper, you're going to help me out. Let me remember what this is. But I remember what it is, but make sure I get the details right. First of all, if you don't have a Fantrax account, go to fantrax.com/Harris to make it. Basically, for every league you join, you're entered, and one league is going to get picked toward the end of September, and everybody in that league is going to get sent to the NFL game of their choice with a pretty great cash stipend to potentially cover your expenses as well. So join a league, start a league, any league you're in that runs into the season, and these leagues are all free on Fantrax. You're entered. It's a pretty great promotion to get an NFL ticket and a wad of cash. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I was going to say last week, I think Huet was like, hey, invite me to your leagues so I can be in one of the winning leagues. And I say to that, no, invite me to your leagues. Forget about the other Dave. That's what I think. So
invite all of us to our league. So anyway, thanks to Fantrax for sponsoring it. But I'll say for my first half, this is a test of the waiting on quarterback in a 12-team league. It's a lot easier. I don't know. I was about to say it's a lot easier to wait in a 10-team league. And yet I did that Hall of Fame league draft that was a 10-team superflex over the weekend, and nobody waited. Quarterbacks went crazy. And I didn't wait either, to be honest. I kind of like waiting more in a 12-team almost, because I think people have a harder time taking that second quarterback as early as they do in a 10-team. So you're at least, you might be knocking out the top 12 quarterbacks. I'm not going to get one of those, but I'm also not going to get stuck with like number 25 and 27 if I wait. And as Jake said, I wound up waiting and getting Matt Ryan. And then I took Justin Fields really early. I wondered what your guys' reaction was when I took Fields in the 6th round. Jake, what did you think of that?
For who was on the board, look, I mentioned it with the Trevor Lawrence. I go Trevor Lawrence, I go Tua, but it's not they're in the same group. They're in the same tier for me. If we knew Justin Fields was starting for week 1, I would take Justin Fields for this. Yeah, of course, it's the fantasy, it's the upside. You and I have talked, and my feelings on Justin Fields as a prospect are clear. And the fact that I've never seen somebody often after the college football season is like, look how good this guy is. Look how good he does this. And all anybody wanted to do is poo Justin Fields for some reason. I didn't get it. But if he's there, for everybody lauding Trey Lance, if you go and watch those 2 games, Justin Fields made a lot better of a full game sample. Granted, it's only 1 game, but a lot of a full game sample with the similar rushing upside. So I'm with you. I have no problem with Fields being there. Again, if you want to argue for Tua or Lawrence, that's fine. But I think the only reason you're kind of arguing even Tua, Lance, and all the other guys is just because we don't know when Fields is starting.
Sure, and we don't know when Lance is starting either. So
right.
So if you're going to go this strategy, Pyper, what was your reaction to seeing me take Fields in the 6th?
Yeah, I would never lambast you for anything, but I was surprised to see you taking that early, but I understand the upside. I mean, it's there. Right. So I can understand the pick, especially when you have Matt Ryan. to accompany
Right.
him. So yeah.
There it is. I mean, that's the reason I did it, right? I think the time you reach for whether Lance is your viewer, whether Lance is your cup of tea over Fields, we don't know how it's going to work out. We don't know who's likely to start first. We just don't know yet. But when you wait like I waited, and you are suffering at quarterback compared to everybody else who's got two better ones than you have the first one, right? You're looking to hit a home run, and so I probably wouldn't recommend Fields in the sixth unless you do something like what I just said. And I will agree with Jake and say, I mean, I don't think Fields and Lance are the same as rushing potential. I think Fields has way more rushing potential. I think Jake does too. My feeling is I'm going to need another quarterback later in the draft. I took another quarterback that I can use later in the draft because there's a real chance that Fields just doesn't start right away.
I say, you took Derek Carr in the 9th, which will suffice if you have to.
Gross. Yeah, it's gross. I mean, I'm behind at quarterback, no question. Hopefully, I'm good enough at the other positions. The team is pretty strong otherwise, so hopefully, I'm good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you guys said, quarterbacks tend to. People get afraid to take their second one. That's what I did in the 7th round with Baker. I just went for it. I know what he is, and also I'm a Cleveland homer, as you guys can see.
You literally have the jersey. Move your left shoulder just a little bit.
I love it. It's this one.
You literally have the jersey hanging up. That's just disgusting, my friend.
I mentioned that just to say, we had this string in the 8th round of just quarterbacks start going, and it kind of speaks to what you guys were saying about, people waiting on their second quarterback. But,
yeah, I don't know. Finally, the floodgates open on the second quarterback. And Jake, I think your reaction was you didn't like very many of them.
No, it's mostly because Roethlisberger, Fitzpatrick's okay. Darnold don't really like. Zach Wilson, I think, is very similar to Daniel Jones, who we said this before we came on. I'll poo-poo the Giants as much as anybody, but Daniel Jones is the 27th quarterback off the board. Like, what are you doing when you're doing his quarterback SuperFlex? Is you want somebody who could potentially finish top 15. Where was Daniel Jones going as ADP last year? Top 15. Why? Because he runs for 500 yards even when he trips and falls at the 10-yard line. So you look at it and you say, if he could just put together, and I know this is a big question, but they put the pieces around him for it to potentially happen. Of course, if Daniel Jones continues his career path, it's not going to happen. They're going to be looking for a new quarterback next year. But if he could just put out 3,800 yards and 20 touchdowns, isn't a lot to ask in today's NFL with especially the weapons he has, but he runs for 500 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns as Daniel Jones will do. Now you're talking about a top 12 quarterback because it's fantasy, and that's what we want. And to go back to what you said, I do agree with you. Yeah, Fields definitely more rushing upside than Lance. I meant the fact that they add both of that, but I completely agree with you as well. Similar to Jalen Hurts, we're talking 800-900 rushing yards for those kind of guys. But to discount Daniel Jones, I don't get it. Like, for me, I just don't see the upside in, I get Fitzpatrick and Roethlisberger from a volume and from the aggressive standpoint for Fitzpatrick, but I just don't. What's their ceiling? QB 16? Daniel Jones could still be a QB1. It's a long shot, but he still could be.
Sure. And I mean, your point insofar as related to those 6 quarterbacks that went in a row is like Zach Wilson and Taysom Hill going, whatever it was, 4 rounds ahead of Daniel. No, sorry, 1 round ahead of Daniel Jones, but still. I mean, I took Derek Carr over Daniel Jones, and I actually stand by that, but I probably wouldn't stand by Taysom Hill or Zach Wilson. Dave, did you have other topics? Can I get to one last topic, or did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
I wanted to say we've talked loads about quarterbacks, so let's definitely get to a different position. So.
Okay, sorry. Well, it's a super flex, right? So
totally.
You bring up a fair point. Obviously, my whole draft was geared around taking Kenyon Drake in the 11th round. That was what I was shooting for the whole time. Just kidding. Jake, did you have a sleeper that you liked? Other than the last round, we'll talk about the last round in a second. Was there any late? I don't want to call him sleeper. Was there any late round pick where you said, "Yeah, I'm happy when I get that guy here"?
They're both running back. I was gonna say I have 2, and they're both the running backs for my 3rd and 4th running back. Is Damian Harris, who I think that people are too hung up on the Bill Belichick wants a committee backfield. They're like, no, coaches want what they are dealt. And yes, they draft what they have a lot of times, but Bill Belichick has never not used. Go back to Lawrence Maroney and Ryan Edwards before he started playing sand football and all these. He's used Belcowy-ish, if that's a word, which I just made. He's used running backs on more than just this is the goal line short yard guy and James White's the pass catcher. So Damian Harris is not on James White level as a pass catcher. He's not even probably top 15, 20 in the league, but he's adept enough that he can be a 3-down running back. And I think that you can see the Patriots use a little bit more of this year, especially depending on what they do with the quarterback situation. Then Jamal Williams. What do we know about Anthony Lynn? He is a timeshare guy, and he brought in Jamal Williams and was inherited DeAndre Swift. And I love DeAndre Swift as a talent. For everybody out there, don't get me wrong. I love him as a talent. I don't love his situation. I don't love him being on this team. And one of the things I've said is, you know this, you hate Chris, you hate crutch arguments. And everybody's like, well, the Lions are going to have to pass a lot. That's great for DeAndre Swift. Except when you remember that Jamal Williams is a decent pass catcher and one of the better pass blockers in the league. It doesn't mean Swift is going to be on the field for every single passing play. So, and if he gets hurt, then Jamal Williams is a top 15, 20 running back.
Fair. So, and William Harris was in the 8th, which is about where he goes. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like nobody's saying it's like an outrageous and higher, but you like the pick. And when Williams was in the 11th, I'll throw in, Kenyon Drake I took Kenyon Drake because it was probably about time for Kenyon Drake to go, just in case. I'm a big Josh Jacobs fan, obviously. But Elijah Moore, it seemed like all anybody could do was talk about Elijah Moore a week ago, and then he hurt a quad, and I just don't. You'll all have to tell me if the quad injury winds up being season-ending, but until it is, I really don't think it should have affected his draft stock. So it's not like I'm not outraged. I just think he should go in drafts. So I took him where I took him. Pyper, did you have one late round?
No, not specifically. I like Devin Singletary every year in, year out, and especially in a half PPR. But it's
Take
more
the
of
chance,
a
right?
Yeah, it's more of a it's a chance thing.
I was
How about your pick
real
after
wrong
that?
on him.
Gallup in the 12th. I love that value of Gallup in the 12th.
Thank you. Yeah, I hate to admit that I'm trying to fill out my roster at that point. We're like, okay, I need another wide receiver to feel good, but yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, but you picked one that is in a potentially explosive offense that a lot of that, for example, I'm raving about Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's not. And there's a chance that A, 3 receivers could be pretty fantasy worthy, and B, if one of the 2 guys get hurt, Gallup. So it's a nice upside pick in the 12th. All right, so we'll end it by talking about the 14th. This is a 14-round draft because we just don't draft kickers and defenses in these mocks. And Jake and I are at war. That's right, it's war over which Saints receiver. Not really. You took Marquez Callaway. I took Traquan Smith. I just wanted to bring it up by way of saying, let's and you took him in the last round. You're not saying anything about Marquez Callaway. Let's pump the brakes on saying we're positive about which one or either one, or they both should probably get drafted late.
100%. And the funny thing is as you said this, I did it knowing 100% the perception. I took Callaway because of the perception over Smith. This is the first time, Chris, I've taken Callaway because I've been taking Traquan because you've jokingly said it in the chat room of the draft is we don't really know. And if you're going to give me the number 1 wide receiver, I'm actually with you on this. I think it is Traquan if healthy. I think the reason people are on Callaway is because Smith hasn't been on the field. But what my other answer to you was before we even came on the show, for all the jokes being put aside, is does it really matter? They're the 1 and 2. Is Smith the 1 and Callaway the 2, or is Callaway the 1 and Smith the 2? It doesn't matter. They're the 1 and 2 for the Saints. So just draft either one of them super late.
Yeah, it's fine. And you made a good point, which is that we don't know what the percent chance is that Michael Thomas storms off in a huff and doesn't play. And like you said before, pulls the AJ Green and just decides in week 9, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm all right. My arm. Oh, my arm, I think it's broken. Who knows? Who knows? So you could be lucking into more than just half a season's worth of production. Dave Pyper.
Yes. I didn't know you were throwing straight to me. Sorry. But yeah, I dealt with the AJ Green out my elbow before, so that always concerns me. But I do love. I mean, not to go on about, but I do love that you've been taking Traquan Smith in a lot of drafts. It makes me happy because a couple of years ago I was a real enthusiast, and it hasn't happened yet. But thanks for tuning in with us and watching our, talking to us about the mock draft. And want to thank Jake Ciely from The Athletic for sitting in with us and talking football.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.